An equal opportunity opponent to Obamacare. It is not going to happen. This is where we are on this, because this is an important issue. I know that a lot of people have made this partisan. It's not. The key about health care is South Carolina is like no other state in the country. Our main two issues are poverty and unemployment. Those are the issues we have to, it's not that we don't have good health care providers. We do. We've got good health care in South Carolina, but we've got those two factors. They're different than the factors in Texas and California and Massachusetts. So for the president to say you've got to do health care this way doesn't work. It's going to cost us $5 billion over the next 10 years. That's 1 year's annual budget. We can't afford it. It's too much. Not only that, it is going to take more employees from the private sector insurance and put it on the government rolls. It is absolutely going to fail, and there's no way we can do it. This is what we need to do as a state. We need to say, how can we give the most help to the people of South Carolina for the least amount of money? The way we will do that is we're going to go forward on trying to improve health in South Carolina, but we're going to drive down the cost of health care out of the system. 30 to 40% of health care people use just because the doctor tells them to. We have become divorced from the cost of health care. We don't look at the costs, we don't see them. I want you to start seeing how much everything costs. I want doctors to have to show you, I want insurance companies to have to show you what they're paying for. I want you to suddenly become responsible for the options that you have. I want you to have more health care options. I want insurance companies to cross state lines so that you have plenty of options to choose from. I also want to make sure that we are doing everything we can so that we become the state in the country that everybody looks at and says, that's what healthcare is supposed to look like. We can do that, but we have to do it our own way. I have supported the Attorney General's fight in the Supreme Court case that said it was unconstitutional coming out of Florida. I have supported Senator DeMint in his repeal of the health care bill. I have supported Senator Graham in his opt-out provision, and I recently asked all the governors across the country to join me in a letter asking to expedite the Supreme Court ruling so that we can say that, yes, it is unconstitutional. 29 governors signed that letter with me. And last week I went and asked the president if he would join us in expediting the Supreme Court case. He said no. He said that he would not expedite and he would not stall. And what I will tell you is, if he truly believes it's constitutional, which he does, he should want it as much as we do to prove in the Supreme Court whether it's unconstitutional or not. So that is something that we will continue to fight for. That is something we will continue to do. I want you to control your health care options. I want you to have control over how your family is taken care of, how your kids are taken care of. I don't want Washington deciding that. So with that, I know we've talked about a lot of things, but now I want to hear from you. So we will open up the floor. Where are the microphones?
What are you doing as far as the fight to end domestic violence and also bullying in schools? There's a huge problem with bullying in schools. My children suffer from it, and I also know kids now. You know, we visit a lot of schools with my nonprofit, and that's one of the big issues in the schools, also bullying. So what is there anything on your agenda to help with those two issues that we're facing?
What I have done is tried to work with as many constitutional officers as well as our federal delegation on every level possible. When it comes to domestic violence, I know that the Attorney General, Alan Wilson, is going to take up where Henry McMaster left off. He was a strong proponent to make sure that we were fighting domestic violence. It is still one of the things that South Carolina is known for in a way that we don't want to be known for. So he and I talked about it. I will continue to be as supportive as I can. I have not heard about the registry, but we will look into that. Jeff, if you'll make sure, or Blanche, if you'll write that down. We'll make sure that we look at that and see what we can do to be helpful on that front. Bullying, I met with General Zace, our Superintendent of Education, very much on the top of his radar. The teachers have been counseled on what they need to do. We know more of the signs to watch for. and they are trying to see if they can pull that in. That's one of those things that we just need to watch. I'm sorry your kids went through that, and I think that we've heard from enough kids that go through it in a way that they think they can't tell. What they're trying to do is teach students how to inform someone that it's going on, and also to teach teachers on what it is that they need to be watching for. Thank you. Yes.
Hi. Last week I heard on the news that you had come out and given a statement that you were going to go ahead with the implementation of the
exchange, but allows us options so that we can come to you and still be working on the action, on the signs of what we need to do to improve health in South Carolina. That's what I want to do. So our HHS director is going to make sure that no matter what happens, we are not going to be victims of the process. We're actually going to be ahead of the curve. We are working on payment reform. We are working on Medicaid reform. We're working on eligibility requirements for Medicaid. We are working on all the items that will run costs out of the system. We are creating a situation where we have strong negotiations between the providers and the government in terms of the Medicaid that we do service and that we do offer. So no, we will continue to go forward on what we can control, and we will continue to fight the fact that it is unconstitutional from the Supreme Court level.
Hello. I understand. I know the budget is a mess and everybody needs to help out a little bit and give. I was just concerned about the state employees' retirement benefits. I know it's based on how much we earn, and we're already being cut because of furlough days. So that's already factored into the retirement too. And if you could give any more details, or will that become more?
If you don't mind, what agency do you work in? Do you work in?
Yes, Spartanburg County.
Okay. What I will tell you is, first of all, you've heard me say that with this budget, it's going to hurt. And we could do this a couple of different ways. We could make it hurt a little bit at a time, or we could go ahead and say, it's time to address this and let's go ahead and deal with it. So what we are going to see is that we are cutting agencies in a way that we're trying to be smart about it. And I'll give you an example. The budget that we received this year had us cutting hospice. And we took that out because if you cut hospice, all you're doing is putting more people in the emergency rooms and in the nursing homes, and it's costing us more. It's not smart cuts. We're going into smart cuts. The situation of the retirement, I am terribly worried that we won't have the money for you to retire off of. You will hear me talk about the numbers over the next few days. It is unconscionable, the situation that we're in. The only way I can describe it to you is if you have a house and you are not even making the interest payment, within a certain number of months, the bank is going to foreclose. South Carolina is going to get foreclosed on if we don't do something about our retirement system. What they have done is made a lot of promises to people that they know they can't keep. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm going to always tell you the situation that we're in, and it's bad. But we're going to fix it. And the way we're going to fix it is that we're going to have to make some tough decisions in the first couple of years. And then it will start to get better so that we can secure your retirement the way it's supposed to be. It is a terrible thing when government puts their head in the sand. We've done it for too long by taking it a year at a time and just saying next year will be better, next year will be better. No, we've got to deal with this. So what I will ask you is to have a little bit of faith. Understand that I know you've taken a lot of cuts, but our goal is to make sure that you get the things that were promised of you and that we make sure that we deliver on that. It's going to be tough to do that, and I just want to make sure that we come through in the way we're supposed to.
Mary Haley, congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to us. I have a concern with the pseudo. Recently, I was informed that I'm a Tier 1 employer for a manufacturing firm in South Carolina, moved down from New York. And I was told very happily that I was going to get a tax cut on my unemployment tax. And then I talked to my customers, and they're going to get a 370% increase in their unemployment tax. And several of the customers I've talked to have talked about curtailing activities, not being able to hire new people, not being able to provide work for small companies such as myself. If in fact I were to get some work and I were to add one more person, I'd probably use a temporary agency because I don't have an HR department so they could do the screening stuff for me. But I would immediately be put in Tier 19 because that's where most of the temporary agencies are. So my reward for hiring a new person would to have a 350% tax increase. I don't think the solution to the problem was good. I realize that we have $1 billion debt to pay back to the federal government, but at the same token, I think it needs to be reviewed a little more closely because this will definitely kill jobs. It's definitely is unfortunate, but what's happened is the federal government's infinite wisdom signed a bill that says we will take and we will double the length of unemployment regardless of who's going to have to pay for it or what's going to happen when we have to pay that bill. Frankly, unemployment is something that has benefited everyone in the state. It's created some consumer spending that's available for people who otherwise wouldn't have it. So even as small companies, we benefit because there's people that still have some money available, some income. And it's a social responsibility of this debt. It should not be borne by the biggest companies in the state who create the most amount of wealth. And we have to take care of the big companies. If we don't take care of these big companies, we're going to be in a much bigger problem when you don't have somebody else to tax at that rate.
All right, this is one of those other things where let's just talk about what happened. Over the last 10 years, we saw our unemployment trust fund account go bankrupt, pretty much. Where every other state saw their unemployment funds go down about 28%. South Carolina's went down 77%. So it was past red flag time. It was during a time where it was really bad. And so the legislature came together and said, how are we going to reform this? And the way they did it was they looked at the fact that we had borrowed money from the federal government, which don't ever want to have to do. It's a terrible thing, and that's really what we should feel bad about. Borrowed money from the federal government and said, how do we make sure this doesn't happen? We had a couple of things. There were people who were getting unemployment benefits for the fact that they had misconduct. But we didn't know what the misconduct was. We didn't know if it was stealing, we didn't know if it was drug abuse, we didn't know if it was just a single mom who had to take care of her child and couldn't get to work. But either way, we had millions of dollars. It literally went from $18 million in 1 year to $118 million in payouts for misconduct.
Good.
Then we had another situation where we had a massive amount of people getting benefits that didn't even fill out the application properly. We had serious problems within that situation. So the whole situation was reformed. And whether people like it or not, it was reformed to the point that it is considered to be one of the best in the country. Because what it has done is, it went back and said to all the people, to all the companies that used the unemployment the most, they're paying the most. To all those companies that didn't use it much at all, they're paying the least. What ended up happening is, this is now going, and I'll attribute this so that you can see exactly how it's going to happen. It's just like your car insurance. If you get some tickets, the insurance goes up. If those tickets start to roll off, the insurance is going to go down. What this means for South Carolina is by 2014, we will have paid off our federal loan. By 2016, we will have $200 million back in our trust fund. And that's when everybody will start to feel it. You will be reevaluated every year. Every year you will be reevaluated, and that rate will change, just like it does in your insurance company. And then what they'll start to do is, right now they're looking at the past 7 years. Eventually, by the year 2015, they'll be looking at every 3 years. So what it did is those that didn't have a lot of claims aren't paying a lot. Those that did have a lot of claims are paying more. But if the system does it the way it's supposed to, it will incentivize companies to not have to use it as much. We have made sure that now those people receiving benefits, if they don't warrant it, they don't get it. We are getting very strict on the fact that someone that can even get benefits earns it and has filled it out properly. What we're going to try and do is make it easier on the employer. Try and make sure that we work on things so that you can file your applications online, so that you don't have to go in person, so that we can be more of a friend to businesses. I will tell you, there's nothing that I care about more than jobs in South Carolina. But at the same time, we've had a federal loan, and we've had a history of the past 10 years that were bad. We're having to fix it. It's just that simple. We're having to fix it.